And you'll go to the articles that I've written with the photography of Will Allen, where the Greys signal him through an implant, and he goes out in the middle of the night and photographs the UFOs over the White House, over the Capitol, and they're actually beaming in their energy into this vast machine, which is Washington, D.C., and its architecture, which is actually a Masonic machine.
I mean,
so
when you say, sorry,
yeah.
Just to come in here, when you say a Masonic machine, are we again talking about some kind of artificial portal or Stargate in a way?
Yeah. It's the use of sacred
Geometry. Yeah.
but I hate to use the word sacred.
Yeah.
It's the use of this.
It's a cult. It's a cult.
Yeah. It's the use of ritualistic. Let's put it this way. Let's call it the interspecies use of ritualistic geometry for power reasons.
In a way, they're turning spirituality on its head, like they always have done.
Yeah, and that, but it's not only the terrestrial controllers. It's now the extraterrestrial controllers, because they're classes of ETs and interdimensionals that are actually have been in control of the planet. But now we're in a mode of transition where these ETs and interdimensionals are losing their power. That's what's occurring now. Even though it looks like they're gaining their power, at the same time, they're losing it. It just depends on how you look at what's occurring.
Of course they're losing it. You can see that. Yeah. On some levels, people can't. Of course, if you're stuck in the the political struggles, I call it the political conspiracy. But when you kind of move on from that, and everyone will move on. They'll go through it. It's a big journey for everyone. They will eventually come to the spiritual awakening, and they will see that there can only be light at the end of this.
Correct.
Yeah. Sorry, going back to Washington,
yeah.
Would you like to kind of explain, I don't know if you're aware of the layout, would you like to go into a bit of detail of the use of this?
Well, there are many standard articles that go into this. I mean, there's kind of the entry level, which is very primal, where the Washington Monument is the phallus and the Capitol dome is the vagina. It's kind of lower level stuff, and it's just this kind of black magic that they're doing. But so this goes back to the dimensional ecology, and sure, there's that part of the dimensional ecology, but there are many other parts of the dimensional ecology which are simultaneously occurring, which are very positive. So that is what we also want to focus attention on, so that we don't become overwhelmed.
No, that's important. Thank you.
Negative energy. I would be very, very happy to come back at a future time.
Yep.
And continue our conversation.
Yeah, sure. I
am so much in tune with your questions and with your whole approach. I am, however, just at the end of what I can do right now, and I have some other things coming up.
Yeah, sure. I was going to.
I'd be very happy to come back at a future date.
Yeah, sure. I'll bring it to a close now. We are kind of getting on to an hour and a half. I'd just like to kind of finish it by you kind of telling us a bit about what you think is happening with disclosure, where we're heading, and also just briefly explain to us how we can use. What can we do to discern between what we're going to be presented with, the light and the dark? Are we going to maybe be shown some positive entities and then some negative ones might show up? So how do we kind of discern between this duality in a way?
Those are all key questions, and those are very good questions. And disclosure, of course, is a process, but it's an open-ended process, and it's a process that has multiple parties. One key party is the extraterrestrial or the interdimensional community of intelligent civilizations themselves. And they are the prime movers of disclosure, if they want to auto-disclose or not. Now, we just had a whole episode of auto-disclosure, which occurred last October 13th, 2010, and again in November 24th, 2010, and again in January of 2011, where supposedly members of a regional galactic governance council stated, we're here, we're concerned about the Earth and humans' survival, and to show that we're real, we're going to appear on October 13th over New York. And in fact, there was UFO activity.
Yeah, there was. The late Stanley Fulham, he was an ex-NORAD officer, predicted that it would happen, and it did, yes.
Yeah, and again, a former NATO Spanish intelligence officer was similarly contacted, and they predicted that on November 24th, 2010, they would appear over New York, and they did again. And the Stanley Fulham's last communique was that they would appear over Russia, Moscow, and over London, UK, in January 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And people can go to exopolitics.com and just look at our link that says Galactic Governance Council. We've written about 10 articles on this subject, including an exclusive 90-minute interview with Stanley Fulham and on this subject. So that's kind of disclosure by the extraterrestrials themselves. And so that what the extraterrestrials said at that point, if you take them at their word, is that, look, we can appear over all cities at once, kind of like Independence Day, but that would be above gradient, and it would throw humans into a panic. So we have to come in a very measured fashion.
So are we talking about these as being benevolent or malevolent?
Yes. This council is composed of if the facts are correct, this council is composed of the Pleiadians, the Alpha Centaurians, the Syrians, and even the Bootes Greys. And these are the parties that develop Homo sapiens, who we are.
Yeah. So
God.
Yeah. No, I understand. There is a lot of confusion. Yeah, I do. I can see that. There is a lot of confusion. Obviously, people have been talking in the alternative media about Project Bluebeam, kind of a fake ET.
Now, given that, then the terrestrial controllers and their interdimensional allies create as much confusion and as noise as they can in order to masquerade as upper dimensionals, right?
Yeah.
And in order to create false flags to make it very scary, that extraterrestrials are very scary, even though they've been around forever and have been just, doing horrible things to the human race, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of game that is going on. Now, whether or not, I'm just about to release an article, showing that both Obama and Bush predicted false flag operations at their inaugurals. Bush predicted the Iraq War, which is a false flag operation,
Hmm.
And Obama predicts a false flag alien event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of the scale of the Iraq War. So, and now we have right-wing kind of disinformation fonts like National Geographic just came out with this video that is like an Independence Day. And the Obama administration is engaging in mass deception through the Obama-Osama trauma drama. And because Obama, I've seen documented at least 9 prior deaths of, quote, Osama bin Laden, whatever Osama bin Laden was. And the day after that, Obama goes up to New York and promotes the 9/11 false flag.
Yeah.
So it's we're in this area that the Italians masters called chiaroscuro, light amidst the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to say, well, that's what this is. Is Obama light or dark?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those are the questions that I try to avoid, but
It is difficult. It's confusing. I mean, we do
it's
need.
confusing, but at least you can point out that the documentation around him is all forged.
Yeah, of course. We have this UFO orb over Jerusalem. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but there was. To me, that's kind of a form of disclosure, but from the religious kind of institutions as well. Are we seeing something like a kind of a controlled rapture coming?
I didn't quite get all of that question
Okay.
about a controlled rapture.
Yes.
Because rapture is a term that is used by the right-wing fundamentalists here, and it is tied into disinformation because it's been shown through substantial political analysis that the CIA and the intelligence agencies have penetrated the right-wing fundamentalists.
Yeah.
And all these ideas of rapture are, part of a disinformation campaign.
I'm aware of
So,
that.
yeah. So you lost me a bit when you mixed metaphors
Yes.
with the Jerusalem USM and rapture.
I just, it's the way,
question.
sorry, I'll go back to it. It's just the way that it was presented. There was some support of it, and then there was a lot of kind of media coverage actually with the UFO over Jerusalem. And I know on Fox News, one of those big kind of news channels, the lady said, and the question is, has he returned? And I thought it was quite interesting that she used those words, has he returned? Because it was insinuating that the UFO orb was the return of Christ, or the coming return of Christ. I mean, would you like to? Do you understand where I'm going with that question?
Okay, okay. Here, you're.
Yeah, it's a kind of thing.
Yeah. Wait. Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote some analysis saying that the Jerusalem UFO, and I analyzed it in terms of a theory that I developed in 1974 in my first book called the context communication theory of extraterrestrial communication, and that by creating an interdimensional event at the Dome of the Rock, which is sacred in all 3 major organized religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, there was a context communication being made. It's like, get your act together. You're going to have to reconcile.